He said, you'll know you're a good leader when your own employees take ownership of you. They say, that's our manager, or that's our leader. And that stuck with me because it was like a bell that went off that when you're not a good leader, they'll say that's the manager.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Leverage. I'm your host, Coach A.M. Williams. And here we don't just talk about leverage in the word. We want to actually demonstrate and share with you testimonies and the usage of leverage with people who are doing it at a very high level. So as we're talking about leverage, I think it's extremely important that we understand what definition we're using when we're talking about leverage, and specifically what we want to use. While leverage is defined in many different ways, the way we're talking about leverage is the use of something for maximum advantage. And I am super excited today to have a good friend of mine, somebody we just met, but man, we kicked it off, and it's been nothing short of amazing since we've met. My friend Frank Ziede. Let me tell you a little bit about Frank. He's a pretty amazing guy. He's a professional trainer and facilitator with real world retail experience, over 2 decades of training for over a dozen brands such as BMW, Mini, Tesla, Lexus, Honda, Acura, Toyota, and many more over the past decade. And he's branched out beyond automotive to work with brands such as Sub-Zero, Wolf Cove, I'm making sure I'm saying that right. Leica, camera,
yeah,
Colgate, toothpaste. Wow, with a focus and truly great customer service. He has been at this guy since at the age of 19 years old. So needless to say, this guy is truly in it. He's not an overnight expert. This guy is truly versed in skills such as DISC, personality profile, assessments, but his real superpower lies in interpersonal skills and communications, guys. I'm not going to bore you to death with a whole lot of jargon because I know that's not Frank, but his whole piece is all about like his whole dynamic is interpersonal communication from what I'm gathered. And literally we want to talk about how, Frank, you're leveraging your superpower to help these organizations to grow them. So I've kind of given them a high level overview of you, but you know what? Nobody can speak for us better than we can ourselves. So why don't you just take a moment and introduce yourself?
Yeah. So again, my name is Frank Ziede. If my last name seems hard to pronounce, just think of the baked pasta, Baked Ziede. Coach, you can call me Baked Ziede if you want to. That's cool. But yeah, I've been in the industry of retail for quite a long time, about 2 decades, and then for about the last 10 years, I've come to realize that products, in my opinion, are inconsequential. They are inanimate objects that don't really sell themselves. And what you have to have are good relationships and your radar tuned to the right frequency. And if it's that frequency is whatever the frequency the customer's on. So it's more platinum rule than golden rule, right? Treat others the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. So I've had that blessing and luxury of working for all those brands in some capacity. I've had great mentors along the way who provided amazing opportunities, and I've been smart enough or less dumb enough to make sure that I pay attention to those opportunities and lean in instead of leaning back. So I got a chance to talk to Coach and learn about his amazing story, and he asked if I would talk on the podcast, and I said it would be a privilege. So here we are.
Listen, I absolutely love the part you said something that stuck out. You said that you were less dumb, right? And it's always better to be less dumb sometimes than smart, right? Like
Definitely.
I love that, the whole concept of just being less dumb. Um, and so yes, the podcast is we're talking about leverage,
Mhm.
right? And so really, I want to talk about the way you use leverage in the context of what we're saying, using something for maximum advantage. As a corporate facilitator, as someone who's a trainer who works with organizations at a very high level, and it's super important to grasp that this is your company, this is your thing, this is what you're doing. And so you've taken something that you have through your whole real real retail experience, real life world retail experience, and you've taken that and created this great training business. You're working with these high level organizations. So let's go to the core of it. Like, when did you know that you could take this experience and turn that into a business?
When did I know? I mean, I remember my mentor coming to me about 21 years ago, and he came up to me in a hallway after being with me for 2 days, and he was like, listen, I've got the job for you for the rest of your life, and you'll have to turn down work if you follow my, instructions. And I was like, all right, you're weird. I don't really know you, but I leaned in, and as I said, and had a lot of faith and trust in him. And his name is Dave Sweet, runs a huge training company that's called Automatic Education. And he just has a heart for hospitality and a soul for service. And so when he saw potential in me, right, attributes that lent itself to this type of profession, which is, a lot of people would say it's teaching, or a lot of people would say it's educating or training, but what it honestly is serving. Like, the more I can serve the participant, the more they feel that I care about them, that I give a crap about them as the person who's coming to see me at a training for 1 day or 3 days or 5 days in a row. And so back to your question, when did I know that I could leverage something in here? I don't know if I knew it, but somebody else did. They said, you've got some skills or some attributes or talents that I think will shine in this arena. And it was a long learning curve. About the first decade of my career, I can't tell you how many times I stepped on my own feet, stuck those feet deep into my mouth, and, fell on top of myself trying to learn this industry of asking the right questions, truly listening to the answers, and the delivering what people want the way they want. But I think that I saw that if I was willing to dedicate myself, and I don't know if I'm this super dedicated person, right? I don't get up at 5 a.m. every day and do 1,000 push-ups and all those things, but I definitely realized that I was dedicating to connecting with others. That was something in me that was naturally fulfilling to me. And as a result, it helped me shine in this industry of the people business, which is what training is. So I don't know if that answers your question. There's a long, convoluted answer, but that's my thought.
Yeah, you said so many things in there. You said so many different things in there. Like, the first leverage that I gained insight on was the leverage of a mentor. A guy came to you and said, he wasn't your mentor when you met him, but like when he came along, he said, man, I got something for you. I got the job you do for the rest of your life, something that you'll do. That was significant. That was significant there. And then I love the fact that you said, you know what, I took 10 years. The learning curve was long, because today in this world that we have, people think, you know what, let me grab something I could pick up quick and get this. And so I love the concept that you realize that you had a learning curve. Developing that skill, that you will, is super important. And we're going to talk about this on the back end of this, but I'll just preface it by saying we learned, in our conversation, one of the things that we talked about in the pre-production, our time together, we said that the difference between skill and attributes. But this period of time, we're talking about the learning curve. It wasn't that you wasn't doing anything, because this is a huge piece for a lot of people. They'll tell themselves, well, I got to learn it before I do it. And you were actually learning it while you were doing it, right?
Sure.
And so you leveraged your experience. You leveraged the moment doing the thing. And in that, you were willing to get better. You knew that, hey, man, I don't know all of this, but I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to do that. And I see leverage and effort. there. Like you leveraged the effort to get it done. And as you did it more, you got better. So, man, there were so many nuggets in that piece. And I also love the fact that you addressed, listen, I'm not this super committed, get up in the morning, do 5 miles, 5,000 push-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you knew you were connected to people. Like that was the thing that was authentic to you. And so you leveraged your authenticity, which is super important when you're in what you call the people business. Leveraging your authenticity. Nothing is more powerful than leveraging what's authentic to you. And so, wow, there's so much stuff there that, we may just have to have you at a different time to talk about that. But I really want to get back to something I just mentioned.
Yeah.
Because so many people think that, and this is really the challenge I see with education, even with me getting my doctorate degree today. So many people rely on skill alone.
Yeah.
And I share that at higher levels, just like, sports, we're both sports enthusiasts, right?
Yeah.
So you have to, you have to have skill. It's important to do a thing.
Yes.
However, at the top level, skill is not enough to differentiate you.
No.
When you want to do things at a higher level. Frank, you spoke about this so eloquently when we were talking before. Share with people why it takes more than skill to be able to operate at this kind of level, to leverage at this kind of level. Please speak to that.
Yeah, well, in our discussions, like you said, when we met before, recording this, we had that conversation about talent versus skill, and I've trained on that for easily probably 15 years, really trying to talk to a whole bunch of hiring managers about, hey, you're going to bring on a new employee, you're going to try to hire them for skills. You're going to be looking at them going, can they show up on time? Do they know how to handle this retail industry? Do they say the right words? Do they, know these tactics on how to, strategically approach this sales process? But what I'm constantly saying to them is, what is the innate talent inside of their heart or their deep subconscious that you're also looking for? Do they have grit, determination, enthusiasm? Are they naturally resilient? And those aren't things that they're conscious of, like looking for that in employees. And I get it. A lot of the managers are like, well, listen, I'm just trying to find somebody to fill the seat today, and I really need somebody for this job, so I can't be that picky. My point would be is you should be that picky, because if you don't like the process of turnover and the expense that comes with it, then be more resilient, again, in how you hire people. But that's even the real question, making an employer or business conscious of, wow, I really do need to look at the talent that this person naturally has versus the skill sets that I can give them. And I always think of it this way. Every business has a training manual. Every business has an employee handbook. And I guarantee it's a long, detailed list of skills that an employee must know how to do and when to do them. There isn't a talent handbook. There isn't a thing that says these are the innate skills that we really need out of our employees. And then you and I had a conversation of a book, and the last podcast I was on, I just talked about this, but I was talking about it again, called Attributes by Rich Diviney, who's a former Navy SEAL. And I don't want to get caught up. I don't want Rich to think literally that I'm hawking his book, because I'm not. He and I are not friends, right?
You were doing it a lot longer before the book came out.
All right, right. But that's the thing. But there was a light bulb that went off in my head, and we talked about this, that talent is a word that people interpret with something like drawing or, juggling, right? It was this thing that's inside of them. But attributes, more definitely, like when you look at the actual dictionary definition, are things that are an innate characteristic that is true to that person, that you don't have to try to teach them because it's just there. There's something that popped up, and it made me think of this when we were going to talk. I saw this thing come across my feed, and I'm just going to read. It's a meme that's out there right now. I saw it on LinkedIn. It says 10 things that require zero talent. And here's the list: being on time, making an effort, being high energy, having a positive attitude, being passionate, using good body language, being coachable, doing a little extra, being prepared, and having a strong work ethic. These are all talents. This thing is 100% wrong, maybe except for using good body language. That might be a skill set that you could train somebody on, about posture, eye contact, tilt of the head, where are the hands at. But making an effort, that's an attribute. I can't I
Yeah.
can't give you a skill set that says, oh, here's the employee handbook on how to make an effort. Here's the employee handbook on how to be coachable. You need to look for those things. And to say that these require zero talent, I disagree. They require a lot of talent and a lot of natural innate attributes inside of an employee, because these aren't things that are really teachable. You can't come up to someone and say, here is the trainer skill set on read this manual and you'll know how to put in the extra 10% that all employees need to have. It doesn't work that way. So it's a real powerful distinction. And not only is it good for the employer to think that way, but if you as the employee, and then I'll turn it back to you, can stop and say, what are my natural attributes? What are my innate talents that I'm really good at? And the last thing I think is a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not really good at this thing. I don't have that attribute, so I'm just not good enough. And the whole point to that is stop worrying about what you're not great at. Start focusing on what you are great at and lean in on that. That's, to your point, the leverage that I have. I'm a banner waver, right? You give me the team banner, I'm going to be the person at the front of the team, building enthusiasm, generating, high intensity so that our team feels promoted and positive. There are not a lot of people on our team that can do that. There may be somebody else who is the decisive decision maker, who's got the grit to be able to say, hey, I'm going to make the tough decision now. That's not me. And if I understand that, I lean on my teammate. If my leader understands that, they look to us as a team and say, what are the attributes everybody has? How can I use my team sort of as the Swiss Army knife of employee, benefit for all of us? So go.
Here's the piece that I got from that, because I'm seeing a real distinction between skills, talent, and innate characteristics.
Yeah.
Because you may have a guy that may not naturally be talented at a thing, and he may not be skilled at it either, but he has that innate characteristic. He works hard.
Yeah.
That's an innate characteristic in it. And I think that's where, because again, people saying, oh man, he's just naturally talented at a thing. But we know people that are naturally talented that don't necessarily have the innate characteristic of, like you mentioned, the resilience in that piece. And so if you just rely on talent alone, it won't get you there. Much like if you rely on skill set alone, you won't get there. Because I think the trick that we all got duped with education was you go out and get, an education, get yourself a higher level degree, and you go get a good job, until you found yourself sitting in an office full of other people with master's degrees and doctorate degrees. And now even organizations are saying, hey, we only need your expertise 2 to 3 times a year. Why do we have you on payroll for the year?
Yeah.
And so organizations are getting lean and laying off all of this high level talent in the organization and saying, you know what, we'll take you back on as a consultant to do these things. And these guys have the skill set to do that, but do they have the innate characteristics that it takes to do what you're doing, to do what I'm doing? It's so super important. And, granted, we're not hawking Rich's stuff, but we're just speaking to the dynamic of the innate characteristics and leveraging innate characteristics to be super successful or achieve what it is that you want to do at the highest level and achieve your highest aim. Rich, I just want to wrap this up by speaking to that. Like I'm super passionate about helping the dynamic of small businesses, organizations who they crossed that $1 million mark, but now they're in that range between 2 to 10 million.
Yeah.
We're not saying that everything happens at the level of 2 million that happens at the level of 10 million, but in this range of organizations, small businesses, usually you've acquired teams, you've done that. And so speaking to that from a person who trains at the Fortune 100, that level.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the dynamics of small businesses, like how do you see, because you spoke so eloquently to this about being the employer taking on the team.
Yeah.
The thing that came up to me is the one question: what do we do well? What do, as an organization, what do we do well? And I'm pretty sure your experience, you see that at that higher level, just like an organization has to recognize that at this level,
Yeah.
at the 7, 8 figure level, with considering that with what you do, because you know what, like you are well compensated to do what you do for a lot of these organizations. So we're going to leverage you right now for
Okay.
this organization that is, they could have 10, 20, 50, 200 employees.
Yeah.
How can they utilize what you're talking as far as your superpower, interpersonal communications, the dynamic of innate characteristics?
Yeah.
How can they utilize this to truly understand what that organization does well and leverage those things to position themselves much
Man.
more better in the marketplace?
Yeah, we're going to need about another 90 minutes to basically explain all that. But I'll come to a couple of things there. I remember when I was turned on to the concept of a DDO, a deliberately developmental organization. So there's a couple of businesses in the world of industry that lean on this construct, the psychological construct that says, I'm going to lean in when you have a deficiency and you're not good with paperwork, you're not good with spreadsheets, or you're not good with people. And instead of looking at it as a negative, what I'm going to do is I'm going to embrace it and say, fantastic, we now know what we can work on together. What this does is creates a culture of safety. And it creates this psychological understanding that I'm not going to hide in a business when I don't know what to do or I'm not good at something. I can actually talk. Stephen Shedletsky, who works, he's got his company now called Shed Inspire, but he worked for Senec for a long time, has this thing called speak up culture. And that's what you're trying to foster. You're trying to literally say, I want my people to talk. I want to create culture where everybody feels supported and they can talk about it. But if I come back to your conversation, like if I've got an organization with 20, 50, 100 people, the very first thing you have to ask yourselves is, what is our culture? Because they're going to probably spend more time in your office or your business, unless they're working remotely. But even then, they're still psychologically in your business, but they're probably going to spend more time with you than they do their own family. So do you actually feel like a family at work? And I don't mean toxic positivity. I don't mean barbecues on Friday, every Friday, and everybody's got to do team sporting events. I'm talking about real trust and real, talk, so that people feel like I actually can come to this job and I like what I do. You said, my first 10 years flew by because I found a job that I love. And I can't remember who said it. I don't know. I think it was Mark Twain, but he said, love what you do and you never work a day in your life. That's what you kind of want to have in any organization. So you've got to feel, what that employee needs from you. I'm a huge fan of Gary Vaynerchuk, and his mantra is, they don't work for you. If you're the boss, you work for them. They're the frontline people. They're the ones literally in the trenches. You're the general, right? So you don't, you have to get there in the trench with them and say, how can I support you as my employee? And the quicker you can invert that paradigm and say, I'm here to serve you as the owner of this company that's at $2 or $4 or $5 million, what you're going to get are people who are inspired to come and work for you and with you. I remember something that Shed said that stuck with me. Man, I'm promoting these people and I'm addicted to what they talk about. He said, you'll know you're a good leader when your own employees take ownership of you. They say, that's our manager, or that's our leader. And that stuck with me because it was like a bell that went off, that when you're not a good leader, they'll say that's the manager or that's the leader.
Wow.
So I think it's about caring for every employee. Vayner would say, You need to know the dynamic of every person. Like if you were my employee coach, I need to know your journey. I need to know your journey through education, and I need to know your journey through physical health. And then, do you need something from me? Are you close to finishing your doctorate? So great, you need more time as an employee to be able to focus yourself on what you're doing. And I might lose you for 60 days, meaning your work might not be at the top highest level, but I know that you're checking off a chapter in your career and your life. So as an employer, I'm going to say, I've got your back, because I don't want you here for 6 months. I want you here for 6 years or 16 years. And that's not easy, because everybody's thinking short term. They're thinking, hunting mentality, literally, first to the 30th, or quarter to quarter to quarter. But if you can have a larger farming picture, it says, what does that person need? Is there a family struggle? Is there a health struggle? Is there a financial struggle? What is this? And also, what motivates each person? Like if you know me as an employee, I'm a Lakers fan. Great. Then I know I can talk Lakers, or I can ask you questions about that, instead of just coming over and being like, hey, here's what I like. So but all of this is hard. The last thing I'll say, because I know we're close on time, is there's a lot of safety in rational. There's a lot of safety in numbers for leaders and even sometimes employees. And there is a lot of risk in branching out, becoming emotional, being empathetic, asking questions, not knowing what the answer is going to be, and having to prepare yourself that it might not be the answer you want to hear from an employee. But the risk is worth it, because that's how you get to a place where people actually trust each other more, care about each other more, and are willing to go to bat for each other in a business. So to your small business community, I hope that is something that they can leverage in their direction.
That's treasure. That's treasure. But that's what we want to deliver here on the show. We want to bring, this dynamic helping. And I love the term. Like I am going to take it and utilize it like I created it. DDOs.
Yeah.
I love that. Helping these organizations become deliberately
Yeah.
developmental organizations.
There's
That's
a
how you
great
get
book
across
on
the
it.
road.
I can't think of the author, but there is a full book that literally talks through it. If your audience is curious, they can research. I think it's Charlie Kim at Next Jump, which is a software company, and I think there was a book written on how they do what they do. It's definitely a unique take on business.
Guys, Frank, listen, it's been amazing having you. I know you guys loved it. You got questions? Please make sure that when you see this, that you ask questions, respond, let us know, give us your feedback on this particular podcast. Frank Ziede. Frank, for people who would like to connect with you, or even consider having you come into their organizations, while we cater to this community, we got a lot of eyes and ears open from different types of organizations. For people who would like to connect with you, how do they connect with you?
Just LinkedIn. Hit me up on LinkedIn. I've gone way down the LinkedIn rabbit hole now. So I'm there, and I'm connecting more and more every day and trying to post content that provides a little bit of value. Also, I'm trying to be really, like you said, authentic and share my struggles. Being like, I struggle with depression. I struggle with anxiety. I'm trying to make LinkedIn stay LinkedIn and not turn into Instagram, because on Instagram, everybody seems great. And I think on LinkedIn, there are some people who are trying to make it into Instagram. Look at this. This is amazing. And our company's doing great and everything. And I mean, I'm trying to share stories of like, I've been on a flight for 6 hours, and I've been delayed for 12. And I had an angry participant, and that's okay. And I'm going to try to keep family at the center of my focus and remind myself that I'm not here to change the world. I'm just here to help change one person's opinion, in a 2 or 3 day seminar. So yeah, but LinkedIn is where they can find me.
Excellent. Make sure you guys connect with Frank on LinkedIn. And Frank, again, thank you so much, man. We got some more. I'm just looking forward to more time together with you, and we'd love it at some point in time to have you to come back and join us again. But thank you so much, guys. This has been Let's Talk Leverage with Coach A.M. Williams, leverage leader, Coach A.M. Williams. And we've enjoyed you here today. Grow big, grow boss. Just grow. God bless. Have a wonderful day.